And we are rolling. So, just like I said, thank you so much for being my mock client and for agreeing to be on video. We are going to videotape this first 10-minute section. Then we're going to cut the camera. We're going to do the physical exam we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to turn the camera back on, and we're going to finish out the second part of the video. You good with that?
I am excellent with that.
Excellent. So, welcome to your first insight session. Are you excited?
I am. I'm very excited.
Good, good. This is one of my favorite parts of doing this kind of work, where we get to lay all the cards on the table. We get to put everything out there and really take a look at what's there and get a good baseline for where you are. Now, we're going to be talking about a lot of different information, a lot of really personal information, and some stuff that can be complicated to talk about. So I want you to feel safe in the space. And I'd like to share with you a quote that I got from another therapeutic space that I find comforting, and I hope it is for you too. And this is something I really take to heart. It says, "Stories shared stay in this space while lessons learned may leave with grace." And it really says to me that we can share whatever we want within this cauldron of space that we're creating here. And it's a safe place because those stories aren't going anywhere.
Right.
Any lessons you learn, please take them out into the world. That's what this is about. That's what education is about. All right?
Yeah.
All right. Good. So, like I said, we're going to do this in 3 steps.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do this first step, which is really introducing all of the cards on the table. Then we're going to do a nutrition-focused physical exam. So with your permission, I'm going to go through looking at your body, taking a couple of measurements. You brought some labs. We're going to take a look at those labs too at that point.
Yep.
Then that's not going to be on video. Then we're going to come back and we're going to look at what we've discovered today in that exam. And we're going to look at the cards on the table. And we're going to start putting together some targets.
Mm-hmm.
Systems that we want to look at specifically where we might have some more questions. Along with that, we're going to set up some maybe tentative goals that will give us an idea of the time frame that we want to be able to work on. All right?
Yep.
All right. So, like I said, this is an insight session. We're going to spend about a half an hour here doing this process.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
So, I got your intakes. I've been over them. I have a good idea of what you've reported to me in those. So, what are your top 3 or 4 physical things that you really want to try to work on? Do you mind if I take some notes?
No, go right ahead.
Okay, great.
Physical things. Well, for probably since the 90s, I've had skin issues.
Okay.
Grew up with really bad acne too. And it comes and goes. It's on my hands, it's on my arms, it's on my legs.
Okay.
Sometimes I have allergic reactions that come from nowhere.
Okay, so come from nowhere. That's when you say things like that, that's something that I really want to explore.
Mm-hmm.
Things don't come out of nowhere.
Well, I know.
So that's one of those targets that we'll look at.
Mm-hmm.
All right, keep going. So skin.
Past couple of years, I've really noticed that I have some intestinal issues.
Okay.
Either very loud, digestive.
Okay.
Can't really focus on what particular meal or what was in a meal.
Okay, so you haven't sort of assessed anything that's specific that causes it yet.
No,
Okay.
I haven't actually, I just happened to notice it over the past couple of years, but there have been times in the past where people have been like, you don't sound like you're feeling well.
Okay.
Let's see. I get a lot of throat mucus.
Okay.
Nasal and throat mucus.
Okay.
And that's, again, been lifelong.
Yep.
And the only other thing is I do have a lot of lower back pain, but from a medical perspective, they've determined that is from spondylitis.
Okay. All right. And you've got a medical diagnosis for that?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see that in your notes. So we'll just make sure that we've got that in the notes. Okay, good. So we've got skin issues, we've got some intestinal issues, we've got some throat mucus. The throat mucus, throat and nasal mucus, is that respiratory? Does it also include your gastric?
No, that's just respiratory.
Just respiratory. And is it seasonal? Do you find it to be day, night?
All the time.
Really. All the time, really. Okay. All right. Have you tried any dietary interventions? Have you tried taking out dairy? Have you tried taking out wheat? Have you had any success with it? Okay, so have you tried it or not had any success?
I have not tried it.
All right, good. So that's one of those things that we'll try that right off the bat. That's one of those things. Mucus up here is one of those things that's usually pretty easy to work on, and oftentimes it's a dairy trigger. So we'll put those in the notes to take a look at when we get to the other end of this.
Right.
All right. Anything else? Any other things that are pressing issues that you think might be a target that we should look at?
Physically?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We've got a couple more minutes here on this section. Mm-hmm. We've got some good targets here. We've got 4 main targets here that we're going to look at. Skin, intestines, nasal, upper respiratory mucus, and then the lower back pain. We just want to make sure that we get a note in here from your doctor that says that it's alkalizing, what is it?
Spondylosis.
All right. So let me explain how this process works from an integrative and functional nutrition standpoint. All right. Mm-hmm. This is a little bit different. You've been to a dietitian before, I know. So let's talk about how it's a little bit different from dietetics. Functional nutrition really looks at all of these symptoms as a roadmap to returning your system to balance. Dietetics tends to look at it as treating symptoms and treating specific diseases. It's a little bit of a different process. So we use diet and other interventions to help retain balance. All right. I'm famous for saying it's all one skin bag. If you do something here, it's going to happen down here. So that's how we're gonna work on bringing everything back into balance. I call my practice Healthy Self, but we spell it Heal Thyself. Mm-hmm. You live there. I don't. I have all sorts of information. A former teacher of mine is famous for saying, Google has information, you as a coach has transformation. That's our job. I can bring you you've brought me a whole bunch of information, a whole bunch of Google stuff, your personal Google. I'm going to bring you some of my big old Google, my big information from out here. Right. We're going to put them together, and together we're going to find your personal balance. So that's how functional nutrition really works. Got any questions on that?
No.
All right. As we go through this, we're going to determine how long we're going to work together. I like to work on a weekly basis with my clients. Mm-hmm. I like to really get a good touchstone, whether that's in person on a weekly basis or if we go every couple weeks and on a weekly basis we at least touch in on Facebook or on the phone or something like that.
Right.
I like to work in 4-week chunks because I think we really get a good arc of change in 4 weeks, and any shorter than that it gets too truncated. There's not enough time to see a really good amount of change. Mm-hmm. So at this point I think we've got some good places to start. Do you have any questions about the process and what we're going to do, how we're going to go about this?
No, I'm kind of actually just excited to get this started.
All right, excellent. So with your consent, I'm going to pause the video. We're going to take a minute to do the nutrition-focused physical exam. Mm-hmm. We're going to look at a whole bunch of pieces of you today, and that's going to give us a really good snapshot of where you are exactly now. And then we're going to move forward, and we're going to then take those pieces and work them together. All right?
Sounds good.
All right, I'm going to pause it now.